What's up with that? What's up with that? What's up with that? I say, what's up? I say, what's up? What's up with that? Lindsay!
Lindsay!
Lindsay! I forgot about you, Lindsay. Don't be mad. Don't be mad. We're back. Boys and girls and people and humans and dogs and cats and
But mostly dogs, let's be real. We really make this for the dogs.
birds and lizards and snakes and
Wow.
all the other things that listen to the podcast.
I mean, I just said it's all dogs.
Yeah, we receive a lot of fan mail from dogs.
People put this on for their dogs when they leave the apartment. They're like, here's something for you
To sleep.
to sleep or to not realize that I'm gone. And it's just us in the background. So
Yeah, we get a lot of dog fan mail. It's just most of the time a paw print. It says underneath, I love your show, woof. Much woof. I woof you. Yeah. What's going on in your life, Danielle?
not much. Not much. I don't feel super, I don't know, motivated.
Yeah,
last few days.
the weather is super.
I mean, it's the weather, but it's also menstruation.
Ooh, the big M word.
Oh, yeah,
It's not McDonald's.
it's not.
Yeah, but it's also
very
though,
draining.
It's now very fall-y right now, where it's raining, it's dark gray outside, and it's just shit. But it's fine because I'm having off a little bit this weekend, so I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it.
It's nice. Yeah, the weather doesn't really bother me. I just feel kind of drained.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about what today?
I actually don't remember what you said the topic was
Oh boy.
because you told me 2 or 3 days ago, and I
So the
don't have the memory for that.
So the topic is, and I think we touched on it multiple times in different episodes, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about it again in more like a direct way, is why it can be harder or let's say not so easy sometimes to be with someone from a different country.
Yes.
And we will go into our experience and what we think about and what something might be what we could have done different to make some things easier maybe. But yeah, let's talk about it. So why do you think just straight out of your head, top of your head, why do you think, what could be a reason why it's sometimes not so easy to be with someone from a different country?
I mean, off the top of my head, the language barrier, if you don't speak the same language. Some countries speak the same language, but if they don't, I think that's probably the biggest roadblocker.
Yeah.
Especially if one person, not only, in our case, it was, I knew a little bit of German, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, but to be honest, I mean, when you really came here, it didn't really help you that much. It helped you for progressing faster in terms of understanding and then also talking, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of conversing and
No,
just
not
living
at
a
all.
daily life here, it didn't really
not
help
at
you
all. It was more things I could ask for directions, or I could ask how to get to this place, or where is this place,
Yeah.
But I could say my favorite color and shit. In terms
Meine
of
Lieblingsfarbe ist. What is yellow, right?
I mean, it changes a little. Right now, it's been lavender for the last year, but that's starting to change now too.
Wow.
Honestly, I really love lavender, but I wouldn't. I don't know that I would say it's my favorite color.
Isn't that a real color? Isn't that a bird?
It's a flower.
A plant, yeah.
A
Right?
bird.
The lavender bird.
It's a color.
Okay. My favorite color is orange.
I know. Look at that. You didn't even know my favorite color in 90 years.
Yeah. The thing is, at some point it was yellow.
Yes, that's true. It was yellow. I do love yellow, but I'm not in a very yellowy place.
Okay, back to the program.
The program.
The program. The
this
topic.
PBS.
Yeah. And now back to the program, kids. Yeah. I mean, sure. I think one of the main things is the obvious thing is language.
Yeah.
The barrier of maybe you can converse with each other and you most of the time understand each other, but when it comes to like talking to family or friends or trying to, do things
or
on a
it
daily
typically
basis.
tends to be one of the partners is speaking more of a language that's not their own than the other, because in our case, that's how it was. You were much better at English than I was at German, so we tend to speak more English.
That's true.
It's just,
We still very much mix it up.
Yeah, I would say we still talk more English than German, but for me, I think that's more I could talk in German to you all the time, but I also need English in my daily life, and when I'm working, I don't get that. I have to speak in German the whole day, so for me, it's like I don't know. It feels more like coming home if I can speak my native language.
I understand.
You know
I understand. But yeah, I mean, we talked about that too, that a lot of the time with language barrier, you might seem to, show each other appreciation, love, whatever, and be close. But when it comes to like arguing and fighting, but also most of the time avoiding arguments, it can be super tricky because I don't know. I think there are so many things that clash together. First of all, you might not know each other that well yet, if it's like a fresh thing, or if you recently were able to move together at some point, or the other person were able to move, whatever. And it can be dicey in the sense that, you two cultures basically collide. And that's something I didn't really, when we did the move that you came over here and we just said, yeah, let's try it. We didn't think about all the altercations and things that, could potentially cause conflicts. Like how you grew up in a still Western world, but still completely different to Austria. And also how you voice things, how things are phrased. And also, I mean, daily life is different than being in love and, maybe being on a holiday or just visiting for a short time because you try to make the best out of it. It's usually a very nice time. So I think being then in a daily life situation where it's much harder to sometimes steer around conflict when it arises. And I think that's something that I don't know how we could have done better with that.
I mean, I don't honestly know, because I knew going in terms of when we like decided that I would move here, I knew there would be more arguments when we moved in together, but purely because I had lived with someone before.
Yeah.
So it's like I knew he and I, we've talked about this too on the podcast, he and I didn't really ever fight. Which was not a good thing, but I still knew the conflict of having different ideas, having different ways of doing things when you move in with somebody. And I mean, you have it with roommates too. I had that with my roommates before.
Yeah.
So I knew that there would be some conflict, and I was prepared for that, but I wasn't prepared for the conflict in terms of the language barrier when we were fighting, because we would fight about things, but sometimes you would say things in German because at that point even fighting for you was obviously easier in German and I wouldn't understand anything you're saying. And then we would just get frustrated because I couldn't understand you, so I couldn't really I wanted to ask for help, but at the same time you were mad, so I didn't want you to be teaching me in that moment,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how we could have really done that differently unless I just knew better German.
Yeah, the thing is, I to be honest, I don't think we could have done better in that sense because, I mean, first of all, every situation is different. But I think what we could have and we did that in the later month or later years, where we tried to cut each other slack and say, okay, look, this situation is not easy for many reasons, and we should also consider that language barrier and maybe understanding each other in certain situations might still be hard or different because we don't know each other that well yet, and we don't know each other's culture and language that well yet, so we fully understand what a certain phrase or what a certain way of saying something could actually mean in my language.
Yeah.
So I think that is something to at least consider. And I've heard from some people on Instagram that is a big reason for maybe it's not working out, or maybe, when they try for the first time being together, that there's a lot of conflict and it can't be really resolved because of things like that. And I think knowing that, or at least being aware of it in certain situations, can maybe make some fights not last so long, or resolve faster, or not even come up in the first place. I don't know. But obviously, it also depends on the people. I mean, there are some people out there who don't really fight, or who are so good at, talking calmly and trying to resolve it in a
The thing is, I don't think that arguing or conflict necessarily has to be like your stereotypical we're mad at each other, or we're like loud, or
that's the end goal.
But I think you can still be in a conflict with your partner, but remain calm and you can still be pissed at somebody without being like, I don't know, loud.
That's the end goal. If you're with someone, and you should voice your opinion, and you should voice that maybe you're not happy with your partner at the moment. And fighting is not a bad thing unless it gets really bad or counterproductive or destructive. Then you maybe should reevaluate the whole situation. So there were already a lot of things, but do you have something else that you want to add in terms of what can make it hard?
I mean, technically it would be your turn now.
I would say sacrifice.
Yeah, that would have been my next one.
Because obviously when you have found someone in a different country, some of you have, or both maybe even, have to sacrifice something massive in order to, move in together or be together. And that can maybe turn into resentment, or can be held over the other's head in a lot of ways. For example, in fights, where it can always be like a topic in the sense that, I did so much for you, I left, blah, 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 but you can't even do this, where it's always, held against them in a way. So I think sacrifice is a big thing that obviously can make it really hard for two people to be together from different countries. So I think, it's the same thing, being aware of it and showing appreciation, but at the same time, for the other person, knowing, okay, nobody forced them to do this. It was a situation that they made together, hopefully. And if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, then at least it was, you tried something, and maybe you gained some knowledge, maybe you gained some new friends or whatever. But you can't hold someone accountable for your choice if there was not a gun at your head, basically. As dumb as it sounds, it's still your choice. If you say, okay, I move across like you did, like an ocean, the Atlantic, and then, be, hey, I did this for you, or be always like build resentment in the sense, okay, I did so much for him, like basically giving up my whole life, my family, everything over there to be with that person. That can be very destructive and can be a cause for the relationship to end.
Sure. I think I wouldn't say I have any resentment, but I would be lying if I said I didn't struggle with it sometimes. Not to the point where I don't think I ever say something to you like, oh, I did this for you, so you have to, But I do think about it a lot, especially as we get closer to basically building our most likely forever home.
Yeah.
And, you know, talking about starting a family and all of that. And I do think about it a lot more lately in terms of like, you know, when we first started. And this is the other thing. You have to realize that things change. And so it's not always going to be, you know, sticking to the deal that you made in the beginning. Like we basically had said in the beginning that because he was still studying, that I would come here. And he also wanted to be close to his grandma because she's getting older. And that was also a topic that we talked about. And for me, I didn't really have a whole lot of like older relatives that I was concerned about. Maybe I won't be around if something happens. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that was like, okay, then we'll do it that way. But there was a part of me that kind of felt like, I don't know, I feel like at some point before we started a family and like settled down, because I think we both wanted to settle down here. But I thought kind of before that we would be in the U.S. a little bit, maybe 2 years or something. And so I think for me that is definitely something that's still, I don't know. I wouldn't say resentment because that's not the feeling, but it's still a thing that pops in my head. Like I kind of wish that would have been the case because at this point now and I'm happy to be here. That's not the point. And I'm happy to say this is where we're going to settle down. But I also, I don't know. I wish I would have known that. It's hard to say.
But I know what you mean, but at the same time, I think
it's not like it would have changed my decision. But I wish we would have maybe spent some more time with my family.
I still like the idea of being over there, and I still like the idea of maybe living there for a while. And I think that's still a very good possibility. And at some point, maybe when the kids are a little bit older, it might also be easier. Not that we have kids yet. We're talking like we have kids. Go to bed now, kids. It's so late now.
Actually, I think it's easier when the kids are younger.
Yeah, no, not older in the sense they're like 15 or so. No, younger, sure, younger kids. But I think I still like the idea of doing that at some point. And I don't think that there would be a reason why it could not happen, I think.
I mean, we talked about this too. I mean, for me, it was when we started talking more seriously about like the house and stuff. I said for me, because if you remember, I was starting to get like close to panic attacks pretty frequently over the whole thing. And I realized it's because I felt like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is like where we're staying, which was the plan, but it sunk in. And for me, it's more like as long as we have like a deal with each other that at least once a year we're going to go to the US and maybe for a longer time, or maybe once every 2 years we stay for a longer period of time, or, you know, you spend a whole summer there, you know, something where it's like there's more time with them. So I have more time with my family each year. Yeah. And for me, that's important mostly because I'm so close with my parents. So I think that's like having that like reassurance or that like, okay, this is something we're going to try to do, that makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big, like, I mean, that fits with what we're talking about. I think that's a really big part of why it's hard to be in a relationship like ours, because one person is going to have to sacrifice more of that stuff unless you have the flexibility where you say, okay, we live here for a year, then we live there for a year. And it's like constant back and forth. Yeah.
Let's take a quick break. We're back. I think another big thing that can be hard on the relationship depends obviously on the country and all the your rights and the laws in terms of immigration and visa. But that can also be very hard and straining and exhausting to get that going and to go through the process of immigration without, you know, being married to someone. Mm-hmm. And getting a hold of all the laws and what you have to do and what documents you have to get maybe translated, maybe with an affidavit or whatever. All that shit can be really hard, and I guess that can also be a reason for people to say, okay, maybe it's not worth it, or maybe it's not meant to be because it's so fucking hard. And there are countries, I mean, Austria, for example, is not the easiest to immigrate to, especially these days. And even if you come from, you know, a country where, you know, Western civilization and rich country or whatever, does not matter at all. And there are a lot of things you have to do, and there are only a certain few things how you can immigrate.
Mm-hmm. It's very, very difficult.
It's very difficult. So, and I guess that also put a lot of strain the first few months in our relationship, because there was a constant stress of like, okay, fuck, the visa is going to be, I don't know, valid until this point. Then
like my travel visa, basically.
Then we have to renew it, or then maybe we have to find something else. Then with your being a au pair, that was also not easy, because
you have to find a family.
You have to find a family. They have to be okay with the whole situation. They have to be cooperative, obviously, because if they say after 6 months, okay, we don't need you anymore.
Or even sooner.
Even sooner.
I mean, sure, your visa then is valid, and even if they say...
But still, I mean, there are a lot of problems and things that can be very hard on the relationship, especially in the early month, where that's usually not the case. But that's also something, I mean, we talked about this, I think, in a few episodes, where I maybe get a hold of at least some information before you do anything. Try to, from both sides, try to get information how it would be if that person would immigrate or come to your country, or the other way around.
I mean, that's not to say we did nothing. I mean, I did do a lot of research, and I made a lot of phone calls, but the problem is you get a lot of different information from different people. And so when I came over, I was under the impression, first of all, I was, right in the middle of just feeling completely head over heels for this person. And so that also clouds your judgment sometimes. And so it's just like, oh, I'm just going to book a plane ticket in a month and it'll all work out. Yeah. And I literally, from the time I booked my plane to the time I moved here, I had a month, and I packed, got rid of shit, came here in a month. Yep. But so in hindsight, probably didn't have to be so drastic about it. But but you hear different information from different people. And so I was under the impression coming here that I can get the visa here, which was ended up not being the case.
Yeah. A lot of, I think, preparation is, you can't do everything. You can't know everything. There will be hurdles. There will be things you haven't heard about and you have to do maybe. But being prepared a little bit, at least, and gaining some information will help you in the process and will make the process a little less stressful. Maybe you even have something, close family, friends, or whatever, who went through a process similar. So that can also help.
I mean, what helped me the most is I ended up finding this woman who was from Australia, not from the US, but she was from Australia, and she had a blog, basically. And on her blog, she talked a lot about how she moved to Austria for love. And sure, the process is a little different being from Australia than in the US, but in terms of coming from an outside country, outside of the EU into the EU, it was similar. Yeah. And so that actually helped me a lot, and she was really nice and actually responded to me personally, and we chatted a bit, and that was super helpful. Yeah. But yeah, it's not always easy. Some countries are easier. Some countries are they are really, really difficult. Yeah.
I think in general, overall, I mean, there are tons of other different, I don't know if you can think of something else, but if you are in love with someone from a different country and you want to, be together, want to maybe try this relationship, give it a go, there are so many reasons why it is definitely harder than being with someone from your own country who speaks the same language, who doesn't have the problems of going through a visa or whatever. And especially, when they come over or when you go over there, you might need to live together right away. Yeah, sure. You might have been together for a while now, but a long distance relationship is much different than being actually together and being in each other's lives and living their life and they see you live and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. I think it's one of the harder, maybe tell me if it's not, but I think it's one of the harder ways to start a relationship.
I think so too.
Moving to a different country and trying to get adjusted there, trying to get all the visa stuff, work, language, and stuff like that together while building a relationship that might last or not. But at the same time, I think if you consider all of that, what you would do for a person and how much time, how much energy, how much effort you would put into that, I mean, that alone shows you how much that relationship can mean. And at the same time, builds a big and very sturdy foundation, I think. Because you're not doing it for nothing. You're not doing it just, I might try it because I like it. I like that person. No, you're doing it for love and because you believe in the relationship. And I think that alone shows how much it's valid to you, how much it's worth to you. At least that's how I felt with our relationship. And that's how I still feel. And yeah, I'm very appreciative of you being able to, or were able to come here, and were able to figure things out. And sure, there are things that are not perfect, and especially now with traveling and stuff, that we would love to see your family more. But at the same time, your brother is not out of the world, which is really good. And at some point, the whole situation will change again.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you have something else to say?
I mean, the only other thing I would say is I was just thinking about, like, because you asked, like, what we could have done differently. And I was thinking that, so in our case, it was more, the reason that it was so, like, I'm going to come in a month is more so, I mean, it was kind of, like, spontaneous, but at the same time, my lease in my apartment ran out at the end of that next month. Yeah. And so either I would have had to move to a different country or move across the country to go back home for a period of time, which may have been okay, probably would have been, but it's just to move 2 really big moves then in probably 1 year is a lot, and also costs a lot, and so to afford both would be very, very difficult. But had that not been the case, or had I chosen, okay, maybe I just move back with my mom for a couple of months, then I theoretically could have waited until my travel, like your normal travel visa on your passport, was back to normal, which would have been in April. And then, or in March technically, and then maybe gotten the visa D, which is an extension of the regular travel visa, meaning I could have come for 6 months instead of 3, like the normal 3 that you already automatically have, which would have given us a chance to, like, I don't know, try it out and see. But I don't know, at the same time, I think while that would have been a good option, I still think that the way we did it was the way we were supposed to do it, because if we would have done it the other way, maybe we would have just said, because we have an out, we would have just said, oh, it's too hard, fuck it. And I think that we both needed that challenge in our lives. I think we both needed to... definitely. To, like, it. And I think it helped us both grow a lot as people. Grow. It helped us both grow a lot.
That you mean grow?
As people.
I agree.
And so that's why, I always say I don't regret things in my life, because I think everything leads you to where you are.
No regrets.
No regrets. But had we have done it differently, I think that's the way we would have maybe tried to do it. But I'm glad we didn't, because I think being forced to be in the situation, it's like, it's basically now or never. You already gave up everything, and if you don't, it pushed us to try harder for something we wanted. I
agree. If it would have been the other, there would have been an easy way out.
Right. There would have been, you're only here for 6 months anyways. So.
Yeah, and we probably would have taken it at some point with all the falling outs.
I mean, I wouldn't have. I can tell you 1,000%. No, I know. No, the thing is, I actually think you might have. I wouldn't say you would have, because maybe we were supposed to be together, but. We had multiple fights where one of the things in the beginning where many times you'd be like, okay, I'm just done and you can go home. Yeah, sure. So it's like, I don't know, you were very quick to jump to, like, the meanest thing. And
go fuck yourself. Go home to your stupid country.
No, but I don't know. I think we still would have worked it out, because again, I think it was the relationship's
I think
obviously
so.
important enough to both of us that we wanted it to work.
I think
so I think it would have worked.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I agree.
for anyone else out there, maybe it's just a nicer, less stressful transition especially if you have to move in with the person, if you don't have any other options.
The thing is,
just to try to find the way that is the easiest of all the options.
And also, it will be hard anyways, and in the end, it should be worth it. It will be worth it either way. But it's a lot of energy and time, and you have to put in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's definitely worth it because it's an experience that is
I think if you're considering it, if you're someone who's like, I don't know if I should do it, maybe I shouldn't, I think just do it, because that was my whole thing. And that's what my dad said to me, which I'll never forget him, like the conversation we had about me coming here. And it was before I had decided to, but he and I got coffee at our favorite coffee place, and we were just talking, and he asked about the whole situation, and I said, I'm really considering it, but it also scares me. And he said, well, let me ask you this. In 20 years, if you didn't do it, do you think you'll regret not trying? And I said, yes. Like, that was top of my head. Didn't even have to think about it. Yes, 100% I would regret it. And he's like, then do it.
I think that's it's everything that goes beyond your comfort zone. And I mean, obviously moving to a different country is a lot, is rewarding in a lot of ways and will be a good experience, with whatever ending you end up. If you might not work out, or if it's just a little short fling and then it dies down, whatever. But going beyond your comfort zone and doing something that scares you is definitely rewarding in any way or sense. So yeah, just do it. I think that's it.
That is it.
Thanks everybody for listening. Please, please, please. We talk about this every day or every week. I mean, we do.
This is all we talk about when we're not recording the podcast.
No, but please consider subscribing and sharing the podcast on Apple Podcast. You can rate the podcast and review it. And just tell
rate the podcast and review the podcast.
Exactly. And tell your friends and family about this awesome program you're listening to. It's not embarrassing at all. And we hear each other next week.
Indeed.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.